you making an intro, or do you want me to do it?
I'm giving an intro now. Welcome, everybody. Continuing our Paganish Michigan Virtual Book Festival, we have Jade Aurora, the author of Motor City Witches. And without any further ado, here is the author herself.
Hey guys, my name is Jade. As you know, as she stated, I am the author of this is my first novel, Motor City, which is the Goddess Within. But before we get started, I do want to give a little background information about myself. I am based in Detroit, Michigan. I am an artist. I'm also a cosplayer. If you've been to YumaCon, which is an anime convention, you may have seen me. What inspired my book is that I have always been a fan of the fantasy genre. It's just, however, as a Black woman, we there isn't a lot of representation in that genre for us. So I decided to come up with a story to write with the main protagonist being, people of color, being, African American. So that's what basically inspired it. So that the people who read the book, they have something that they can relate to and be inspired by. I'm gonna start reading, starting with the first chapter. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I can definitely answer them for you. And of course, this is the cover. And the book is illustrated, so in addition to reading, I will show some of the illustrations, and I also designed the cover as well. Okay, so starting with chapter 1. Nice pose, nice pose, Duchess. Now, can you turn your head towards me just a little? The photographer said as he snapped a few shots with his camera. Rochelle Lawson, also known to the local modeling circles as Duchess Holiday, did as she was instructed to, giving the camera a seductive smile. Rochelle loved being in front of the camera, and every shoot she did gave her a rush of adrenaline. She was natural at what she did, and photographers loved her. Her glowing brown skin, thick kinky hair, and alluring eyes gave her an air of divinity, and her hourglass figure added to her sex appeal. Photographers have tried countless times to get her to pose nude for them, but she would always decline. Doing pinup and lingerie was one thing, but posing in her birthday suit was an entirely different thing altogether. There was no way in hell that her boyfriend, Lamar Rollins, would ever go for that. It was already bad enough that he would pitch her bitch fit whenever she did lingerie shoots. She was not looking forward to their conversation later. So how are the pictures looking, Keith? She asked. Is that a trick question? Sweetie, these photos are going to knock your fans dead. Come take a look, he replied. Rochelle got up and walked over, and Keith showed her the photos on his laptop. She couldn't help but get a little turned on as she looked at herself, lying seductively on the bed. She was adorned in a red bra and panty set with black thigh-high stockings and red pumps. Her hair was in pin curls accentuated by a single red rose clip, and the dark red lipstick she wore added to the allure. Damn, I look good, she thought to herself. She couldn't wait to get the edited shots so she can post them on her page. So, what did you think? Keith asked with a smile. I love these, Rochelle replied. When do you think you'll be done with the editing? Well, I have 2 other models whose photos I have to edit, but it shouldn't take more than 2 weeks. Now I just need you to fill out this model release. I'll give you your $200 and you can be on your way, replied Keith as he handed Rochelle the model release. After filling out the document and collecting her money, she left the studio and walked into a nearby cafe. After placing her order, she took a seat in one of the booths. Pulling out her phone, she called Lamar but was sent straight to voicemail. Surprise, surprise, she muttered to herself as she set the phone on the table. Sometimes she wondered why she continued to put up with him. Sure, he was good looking at 5'9", with caramel skin, cropped black hair, hazel eyes. But he was lazy, could never hold a job, and every conversation they had would end in an argument, resulting in a breakup and eventual reconciliation. Not to mention, he was very unsupportive of her modeling career, which was often the source of their arguments. Lamar couldn't stand the fact that Rochelle took half-naked photos of herself and that other men and even women were ogling her, and possibly even beating off to her body. Never mind the fact that she had paid his bills with the money she made from showing her ass, as he called it. He even went as far as to accuse her of sleeping with her photographers. That accusation was funny coming from him, considering that he was the cheater in the relationship. And it didn't help that his holier-than-thou mother enabled his behavior. Rochelle was in a toxic relationship and she knew it. However, she kept holding on to the good moments they did have, hoping that somehow they could make the relationship work. "Order for Rochelle," the barista shouted as she set the mocha frappe on the counter. Rochelle picked up her order and walked out of the cafe, unaware someone was following her. "Hey, pretty lady, can I have a minute?" Rochelle turned around and came face to face with a man old enough to be her father. He was average height with dark skin and a receding hairline. He was wearing a red t-shirt that was 2 sizes too big, baggy jeans that were sagging, and gym shoes that looked like they had seen better days. Rochelle could also smell the liquor on him. Also, before I continue, this is one of the illustrations. This is her at her photo shoot in her pinup attire. Seeing that no one else was around, she came to the conclusion that the older, intoxicated man was talking to her. Hi, she said. "I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you're a real beautiful woman," the man said with a smile. "Thank you," Rochelle replied with a genuine smile. "You know who you remind me of? You remind me of Billie Holiday." "You know who she was?" the man asked, looking her up and down. Rochelle wanted so badly to roll her eyes. Of course she knew who Billie Holiday was. She inspired her model name. "Yes, I know who she was," she said, smiling. The man moved closer to her, making her uncomfortable. "So what's your name?" he asked, his breath reeking of alcohol and cigarettes. "Duchess," Rochelle replied, giving the man her alias. She was not giving him her real name. "Duchess, huh? I like that. It's classy. My name's Terrence. You got a man, Duchess?" Terrence asked. "Oh my God, will you get the fuck on?" Rochelle shouted internally. She was so sick of old-ass men hitting on her. However, as much as she wanted to tell him off, she knew she had to play it smart. She knew how fragile men's egos were, and she had seen news stories of women being assaulted and killed just for telling a man no. Giving the man a sweet smile, she said, "Yes, I have a boyfriend." She hoped Terrence would get the hint and leave her alone. She was wrong. "Your man won't let you have friends?" Rochelle gave him a blank stare. Of fucking course, she thought. He's one of those guys. "Well, I'm not looking for friends right now. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get going," she stated as she turned to walk away. Terrence's smile instantly faded. "Fine, be that way, you stuck-up bitch," he shouted after her. "You ugly anyway." "Funny, I sure as hell wasn't ugly 10 seconds ago when you wanted to be my friend," Rochelle mused to herself as she walked to her car and got in. Terrence's reaction didn't surprise her in the least. He was not the first man to insult her after being rejected, and she knew he wouldn't be the last. She had been called a bitch, a slut, a nappy-headed hoe, and her personal favorite, a bitch lasagna. That little gem came from an Indian man by the name of Kabir, who got mad that she didn't respond to him after he sent her a picture of his genitals. Rochelle still hadn't been able to figure out what the hell a bitch lasagna was, and frankly, she didn't want to know. Putting her encounter with Terrence behind her, she turned on her engine and drove off. Maybe she could find something good when she got home, on Netflix when she got home. Rochelle was sitting on the couch watching I Love Lucy on Netflix when she heard the door open. Hey, Roomie, Sarai Patterson, her best friend and roommate, said as she entered their apartment, carrying 2 large boxes of pizza. I brought dinner. Awesome, Rochelle said as she got up and took the boxes from her friend's hands, setting them on the table. So how did your shoot go? Sarai asked, taking a slice. It was pretty good. I should get the pictures back in 2 weeks, replied Rochelle. So how much did you make this time? $200, Rochelle said as she put a couple of slices on the plate. I wish I had your job. $200 just to be pretty in front of a camera? Easy money, Sarai said. Well, I wouldn't exactly call it easy. Modeling can be pretty demanding, not to mention that the industry can be catty as fuck, Rochelle replied as she took a bite of her pizza. So how are things at the shop, she asked, referring to the comic book store that Sarai worked at. Same as always, pretty chill, Sarai said with a shrug. I mean, we get the occasional elitist asshole, but nothing eventful. Rochelle nodded in response as she picked up her phone and dialed Lamar's number. Once again, she was sent to voicemail. Damn him, she thought to herself. Seeing her friend's frustrated expression, Sarai knew what the problem was. They had been friends since grade school and she could read Rochelle like a book. Let me guess, Lamar didn't answer his phone, she asked. No, and he didn't answer when I called him after my shoot, Rochelle replied angrily. He always does this. I bet he's with some bitch. Sarai sighed and gave her friend a sympathetic look. She regretted the day she introduced Rochelle to her cousin. For 3 years, she had been Rochelle's shoulder to cry on when she would find nude photos of other women on his phone, or when those women would call her in the middle of the night, taunting her about their escapades with her boyfriend. Rochelle would break up with him, and after 2 weeks of begging, sweet talking, and promises that he would never do it again, she would take him back. Sarai was sick of it. Lamar may have been her flesh and blood, but he was a scumbag. A lying, cheating, selfish scumbag. She hated that they came from the same family tree. Shelley, I don't know why you keep putting up with him. Lamar is my cousin and all, but he's a loser. You can do so much better. Rochelle rolled her eyes. The last thing she needed was a lecture about her relationship. She got enough of that from her mother. Ignoring her friend's glare, Sarai continued. You can roll those pretty eyes all you want, but you know I'm right. Rochelle, you can literally have any guy you wanted. You're a model, for fuck's sake. Why are you settling for a bum like Lamar? Sarai, Rochelle exclaimed, that's your cousin. And I don't give a fuck, Sarai retorted. I'm telling the truth. Lamar is a bum. He would rather live off his mama than get a damn job. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with living with your parents if you're helping them out or trying to make something of yourself. But Lamar doesn't fit in that category. All he does is sit on his ass, play video games, and whore around. On top of that, he has the audacity to disrespect you for what you do for a living while taking the money you make from it. Now tell me I'm wrong. Rochelle let her friend's harsh words sink in. She couldn't offer a rebuttal because she knew her Sarai was right. Lamar had been treating her like shit for 3 years and showed no signs of changing. She knew she deserved better, but she didn't know how to get out. Lamar was her first love. She let out a deep sigh. Look, I know you're right, but a part of me still loves him. Walking away from a 3-year relationship is easier said than done, she said. Sarai placed a hand on Rochelle's shoulder. I understand that, Rochelle. I really do. But you deserve better, and you know that. Besides, you're only 23 years old. You have plenty of time to find your soulmate. There's someone out there better for you, I promise. Rochelle gave a small smile. Ugh, why do you have to be so right all the time, she said. I don't try to be right. I just call it how I see it, Sarai replied. After putting the leftover pizza in the fridge, Rochelle headed towards her room with her laptop in hand. I'm going to go watch some more Netflix before I go to bed. Holler if you need me. Are you going to watch Death Note again? God, you're such a weeb, Sarai replied. Shut up, you're just as big a weeb as I am. True, but I watch good anime, not basic shit. Oh, fuck you. Love you too, Shelley, Sarai replied. Before entering her bedroom, Rochelle turned to look at Sarai. For your information, Death Note is a great anime. Light Yagami can get it any day of the week, L2, she said. Oh my god, go to your room, Sarai said as Rochelle went into her room, cackling. What am I going to do with that girl? Several hours later, Rochelle was awakened from her slumber at the sound of her phone going off. Seeing that the late night caller was her boyfriend, she decided to answer. Hello, she said with an attitude. Damn, why you gotta say it like that? Lamar said. Because it's 4 in the fucking morning, Rochelle snapped. Did he really think she was gonna be happy to get a phone call this late, especially from him? Lamar chuckled. My bad, baby. I forgot you need your beauty sleep since you're a model and all. Rochelle rolled her eyes. Look, what do you want, Lamar? She asked in an exasperated tone. Better yet, what were you so busy doing that you couldn't answer your phone today? I called you twice, and both times your phone went to voicemail. Come on, baby, don't start. My phone was dead, that's all, he replied. Bullshit, Rochelle thought to herself. He was out fucking around again. I know it. Mm-hmm, she replied. Lamar sucked his teeth. What, you don't believe me? Are you seriously asking that question right now? Man, don't start that bullshit. Look, I called because Mom is having dinner at her house after church, and I want you to come. I want you to come with me. Sarai can come too if she wants. Lamar stated. Rochelle rolled her eyes. Did she really want to sit down and have dinner with Lamar's sanctified mother? She wanted to say no, but she knew that was going to lead to an argument, and she was too tired to argue. Fine, I'll go, she replied. Cool, I'll let you go back to sleep. Sweet dreams, said Lamar, hanging up. Rochelle put her phone on the charger and went back to sleep. She'll break up with Lamar another time. Right now, she was tired. So this is, I don't know if you can see, this is what Rochelle looks like. And this is what Sarai looks like. And of course, there's little facts, you know, with their full names, their ages, and birth dates. And here's chapter 2. Hey, Shelley, wake up.
Is Sarai one of the magical people?
Yes.
In the book, or is that a spoiler?
Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but I am going to get to one of them is exposed as being a witch early on in the book. So she kind of mentors the other 2 girls and they start learning the craft.
Oh, cool.
Hey, Shelley, wake up. Breakfast is ready, Sarai said while trying to rouse her friend from her slumber. Rochelle groaned and pulled her blanket over her head. Sarai shook her harder. Just 10 more minutes, Rochelle said sleepily. Sarai rolled her eyes. She knew that 10 minutes really meant another hour. Fine, she said. More French toast for me. She knew French toast was Rochelle's favorite. Sarai smirked as Rochelle immediately sat up. See, you ain't shit for that. You know that's my favorite, Rochelle said, rubbing her eyes. Well, get your lazy ass up then, Sarai replied. Rochelle responded by throwing her pillow at Sarai's head, missing it by an inch. You missed, hoe bag. Fuck you, Rochelle said as she got out of bed and headed to the kitchen, Sarai following behind her. After piling a few slices of toast onto her plate, she took a seat at the dining room table. Sarai sat across from her. So what do you have planned for today? Sarai asked. Rochelle took a bite of her toast. Nothing much. I have another shoot coming up, so I'm probably going to head to Oakland Mall to find an outfit. You're welcome to come along if you want. Rochelle replied, taking another bite. Well, I'm off today, so I don't see why not, Sarai said as she continued eating. Rochelle finished eating and put her plate in the sink. By the way, did you know Lamar wants me to come to his mom's house for dinner on Sunday? She asked. Sarai rolled her eyes. Yeah, I know about the dinner. Mom told me about it. I guess I'm gonna go. Sarai was the black sheep of her family. And family gatherings usually consisted of her mother and aunt making fun of her weight and style of dress, or putting down her dream of being a horror writer. Sarai was raised in a conservative Baptist household, and her family considered anything dealing with horror demonic. As a kid, she could only watch horror films at Rochelle's house because her parents, or to be more specific, her mother forbade them in their home. Sarai loved her family, but she just couldn't stand them, especially Lamar. However, her father was more laid back than the rest of her family. I don't need another argument with Lamar, Rochelle replied. But his mom better keep her little slick comments to herself. Sarai sighed. She knew her Aunt Tasha was very judgmental. Well, if she decides to talk shit, you know I got your back, she replied. Rochelle smiled as she finished washing the dishes. She then went upstairs to take a shower, and Sarai also started getting ready. After her shower, Rochelle put on a pair of black skinny jeans, her favorite Soul Leader t-shirt, and her black combat boots. After brushing her hair and checking herself out in the mirror, she went downstairs where Sarai was waiting for her. Sarai was wearing a black top with lace sleeves, a black skirt that came to her knees, black lace stockings, and black boots. Took you long enough, Sarai said, earning a middle finger from Rochelle. Laughing, they made their way to Rochelle's car and drove to the mall. Sarai, what do you think of this? Rochelle asked, holding up a short purple and black dress in front of her. Sarai looked at the garment and smiled. I think you should wear that for the shoot, she said as she picked up a pair of black pumps, and these would go great with that. Rochelle tried on the shoes and Sarai gave her a thumbs up. As she headed to the counter to pay for her items, a young woman walked in. She was petite with light brown skin, gray eyes, and short red hair. She was also wearing a purple calf-length sundress with matching sandals. Sarai recognized her immediately. Her name was Shauna Roberts. She was a friend of the family, and her father was a deacon at the church Sarai's family attended. She was also one of the women Lamar had cheated on Rochelle with. Even though Lamar had promised that he was through with Shauna, she was still invited to family gatherings. Hey, Shelly, look who just walked in, Sarai whispered to Rochelle. Rochelle looked Shauna up and down and scoffed. I'm not worried about that hoe. She just better not say nothing to me, she replied as the cashier handed her the bag and receipt. Ready? Sarai nodded, and the two walked past Shauna, who was trying on shoes, oblivious to their presence. Do you think she saw us? Sarai asked as they exited the store. I don't know, and I don't care. I have better things to worry about than Lamar's old side bitches, Rochelle replied with a shrug. So where do you want to go next? Sarai asked. Rochelle looked around the mall and noticed that her favorite store, Roxy Joe Creations, was having a sale. Why don't we go into Roxy Joe? She asked. Sarai smiled and they walked into the shop. They were greeted by the store's owner, Louise Eason. Louise was a woman in her mid-20s with rich brown skin, a curvy figure, and long curly hair, which she had dyed purple. And by Louise is also the woman on the cover with the purple hair. So. Like Rochelle, Louise was also a model. She was also a dancer, artist, and cosplayer, and the one who inspired Rochelle to get into modeling. Hey, Louise, I see you're pretty busy today, Rochelle said as she looked around the colorful shop. Louise smiled. Yeah, we have a 50% off sale going on this week, so the store has been packed, she replied. She then looked over and saw her 2-year-old daughter, Artemis, pulling jewelry off the bottom rack and dropping it on the floor laughing. Artemis, stop that. Artemis simply looked at her mother and giggled. Louise sighed. Excuse me, she said as she went to tend to her child, as Rochelle and Sarai giggled. Let's see what kind of jewelry is on sale. I need a pair of earrings, Rochelle said as she walked over to the jewelry aisle. As the two of them were browsing, Rochelle glanced over at Louise, who was behind the register with Artemis sitting on the counter. Louise opened the register and sprinkled what looked like dried herbs inside while muttering under her breath. Why is she sprinkling herbs into the register, she thought as she raised an eyebrow. She looked on in disbelief as the register began to glow slightly. Hey, Shelley, what do you think of these earrings? Sarai asked, holding up a pair of unicorn horn earrings. Noticing the confused look on her friend's face, she asked, Hey, what's up with you? Rochelle snapped out of her thoughts. Yeah, I'm fine. Did you see Louise sprinkling herbs into her cash register? She asked. No, Sarai replied. But didn't she say on her page that she was a witch or something? Maybe it has something to do with that. Rochelle simply shrugged. I guess so. She said, to be honest, though, I've always been curious about that sort of thing. I just didn't think they actually existed. Me too, but I'm not sure if I believe in it, replied Sarai. But anything is possible, I suppose. Rochelle nodded in agreement. After they paid for their items, the girls went home. Rochelle went to her room and called her mother. Hello? Sharon, her mother, answered. Hey, Mom, how are you? Rochelle replied. I can't complain. Will you be coming over this weekend? Sharon asked. Unfortunately, no. I'm having dinner with Lamar and his mother this weekend, replied Rochelle. Her mother sighed. Here comes the trash talk, Rochelle thought. Rochelle, I don't know why you continue to waste your time with that boy. Sharon hated how Lamar treated her daughter and was sick and tired of Rochelle calling her crying about him. Mom, please don't start, Rochelle groaned. Rochelle, you're a beautiful girl and you're so talented. You have your whole life ahead of you. Why would you squander it with a loser? What does he have to offer you? I keep telling you this, and I know Sarai has said the same thing, and she's related to him. That should tell you something. Rochelle sighed because she knew her mother was right. I know you think I'm just beating down on you, but you know it's never out of malice. I only want what's best for you and for you to be happy. If your father were here, he would be saying the same thing. Rochelle teared up at the mention of her father. He had died from a stroke 5 years ago, but the pain was still fresh. And she knew he would have never tolerated Lamar's treatment of her. Rochelle was his only child and his princess. I'm going to break up with him after dinner, Rochelle said. Good, Sharon replied. We'll go out for drinks to celebrate the next time I see you. Rochelle laughed. Well, I'm going to go relax and maybe watch some TV, she said. Okay, baby. I love you, said Sharon. I love you too, Mom. Bye. She hung up the phone. Pulling out her laptop, she logged onto Facebook. As she was scrolling down her feed, she came across a post from Louise's page advertising free tarot readings for the following week. Rochelle pondered for a moment. She always had an interest in the occult and supernatural, but before meeting Louise, she never knew anyone that did things like that. Maybe I should book a reading. It is free after all, she thought to herself as she sent Louise a message expressing her interest. What's the worst that can happen? Does anyone have any questions or any comments?
So all of this sounds very down to earth. And did you pull any of your characters from real life?
Yeah.
Yeah? People you know?
Yes.
Is anybody going to recognize themselves in here?
Yeah, and Louise is slightly based off myself. The only difference is I don't have any children, so that's pretty much the only difference. And Roxy Joe Creations, which is the name of her shop, is actually the name of my art page, so I just decided to put that in there.
Getting a little meta with it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's chapter 3. Oh, and also this is illustration of Louise, and you can see she's holding her daughter. And I gave her daughter the name Artemis.
Aw.
It was Sunday evening, and the girls were getting ready for Tasha's dinner. As much as Rochelle did not like Lamar's mother, there was one thing she liked, and that was her cooking. How do I look? She asked her friend. She was wearing a simple blue sundress with gold hoop earrings, gold bangles, and a pair of gold sandals. Her hair was in a twist out, and she wore little makeup. You look good, Sarai replied. She was wearing a white ruffled blouse with a black blazer, a pair of jeans, and black boots. Her pink hair was flat ironed, and she wore a pair of silver hoop earrings with purple eyeshadow, black eyeliner, and lip gloss. Ready, Rochelle? Ready? Rochelle nodded, and the two headed out the door. I hope that skank isn't going to be there, Rochelle said as she got in on the driver's side. Sarai sucked her teeth since she knew Rochelle was referring to Shauna. She ain't gonna do shit. Besides, you're planning on dumping Lamar after dinner, right? Rochelle nodded. So why does it matter if she's there or not? Let her deal with his bum ass, Sarai replied, and they drove to the house. When they walked in the door, they were greeted by Lamar and his mother, Tasha Rollins. Hey, baby, he said as he kissed Rochelle's cheek as Tasha looked on with contempt. Hey, Miss Tasha, Rochelle said with a fake smile, which Tasha returned. Lamar was the spitting image of his mother. They had the same caramel skin and dark colored hair. The only difference between them was that Tasha had dark brown eyes instead of hazel. Hello, Rochelle, she said, as she hugged Rochelle. Glad you could make it. Tasha then hugged Sarai. They were also greeted by Sarai's parents, Thelma and Vernon Patterson. Thelma was average height and slightly plump. She had the same complexion as her sister Tasha, with deep brown eyes. Vernon was a head taller than his wife, with brown skin, brown eyes, and black hair, which he kept cut short. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad, Sarai said as she hugged them. Thelma looked at Sarai's hair and turned up her nose. You still got that pink mess in your head. You could have at least worn a wig, she said as she let go. Sarai sighed. Here we go, she thought to herself. At least you're not wearing that satanic shit, Thelma added, referring to Sarai's standard goth attire. Thelma, leave that child alone so she can sit down, Vernon said, not wanting an argument between his wife and daughter. Sarai and Rochelle went to the dining room and took their seats at the table, with Lamar and the others following behind them. Rochelle, I'm sure you remember Deacon Roberts, Tasha said, gesturing to the older, well-dressed, light-skinned man sitting across from Rochelle. Rochelle gave a polite smile and nodded, but inside she was annoyed. If Deacon Roberts was here, then that meant, and I know you remember his daughter Shauna, Tasha added with a sly smile. Shauna looked at Rochelle and gave a fake smile, which Rochelle did not return. This heifer got a lot of nerve smiling at me like I forgot she was sleeping with Lamar behind my back, she thought to herself, as she turned her attention to Lamar, who was smiling at Shauna. Deep down, she wondered if he was still seeing her. Even though she would never admit it to herself, out of all of Lamar's indiscretions, his relationship with Shauna hurt her the most. Not only was he seeing her for over a year, but even his whole family knew about it except for Sarai, who they knew would tell Rochelle in a heartbeat. Rochelle only found out about Shauna because Lamar had been careless enough to leave his phone unlocked while he was out with Rochelle. Curiosity got the best of her, and while looking through his phone, she saw that Shauna had been sending nude photos of herself to him. She had also seen explicit messages between the two of them. When Rochelle confronted him, of course, he denied it. However, after Shauna started calling Rochelle from Lamar's phone, taunting her, he had no choice but to come clean. Of course, Rochelle broke up with him. And then she took him back after he promised that he would stop seeing Shauna. Even though he had cheated on her before and made the same bullshit promise, Rochelle let herself be blinded by her love for him, and she forgave him yet again. However, she knew that she was done with him for good this time. After she breaks it off, there will be no reconciliation. After everyone was seated, Deacon Robert said grace over the meal, and everyone proceeded to dig in. However, Rochelle found it hard to enjoy the food because of the dirty looks Tasha and Thelma were giving her. So, Rochelle, Lamar tells me that you do a bit of modeling, Deacon Roberts said. Rochelle looked at Lamar, who was too busy eating. Yes, I do, she replied. I do mostly pin-up. Shauna looked her up and down. She might as well be naked with the pictures she takes, Tasha interjected. Rochelle glared at her, then turned her attention back to Deacon Roberts. My photos are not that bad. Yes, I pose in lingerie, but I'm not naked, and my pictures are very tastefully done, she stated. Thelma sucked her teeth. Ain't nothing tasteful about being half naked on the internet. You need to have more self-respect. Mom, Sarai cried. What? I'm just telling it like it is. See, that's the problem with your generation. In our day, we had none of that gay marriage shit and girls making twerk videos. Now y'all think it's okay, and people are too scared to tell the truth because they're scared of being called homophobic or sexist. Give me a break, Thelma replied. Sarai screamed internally. This is one of the main reasons why she hated family dinners. She had to listen to her mother's bigoted rants about the LGBT community, and frankly, she was sick of it. It's a good thing her mother didn't know she was bisexual. We are truly in the last days. At least Pastor Williams is not afraid to tell the truth, Tasha added. Amen, said Deacon Roberts, and Rochelle couldn't help but roll her eyes. Here we go with the holy roller bullshit, she thought. It wasn't that she hated Christianity or even the Bible. Her issue was with people who twisted the Bible for their own bigoted agendas. Lamar's family was a prime example of this. Mom, she's a grown woman and it's her body. She can do what she wants. Besides, we came into the world with no clothes on, Sarai said. This is why I love you, Sarai, Rochelle thought as she smiled at her. However, her smile vanished when Shauna spoke up. We may have been born naked, but we are a civilized society. Why do you think it's illegal to walk around naked? Your body should only be for your husband's eyes. Rochelle glared at Shauna as she smirked. She was incensed. Shauna had a lot of nerve trying to shame her when she was sleeping with someone who she knew was in a relationship with someone else and sending naked pictures to him. Now that she was around Lamar's family, she wanted to play the role of the good little Christian girl. Shauna made Rochelle sick. First of all, she began as she set down her glass, no one asked you for your funky ass opinion. Second of all, you got a lot of nerve judging me when you had no problem sending naked pictures to somebody else's man. Sarai nearly choked on her food while everyone else fell silent, stunned. However, no one was more stunned than Deacon Roberts. Daddy, don't listen to her, she's lying, Shauna exclaimed, having the audacity to look offended. Deacon Roberts patted her hand reassuringly. Young lady, I understand that what Sister Thelma and Sister Tasha said may have upset you, but I am not going to sit here and allow you to slander my daughter's character, Deacon Roberts said sternly. Shauna smirked at Rochelle. If Rochelle hadn't been so angry, she would have laughed at how clueless Deacon Roberts was about his own child. A saint she was not. Rochelle, you need to chill for real. Shauna was just telling the truth. Do you really think any man would be okay with their woman doing what you're doing? I've been telling you I don't like you doing this shit, but you never want to listen, Lamar said. If looks could kill, he would have been reduced to a pile of ash at that very instant. Rochelle was trying to maintain her composure because she considered herself a lady. But if one more person disrespected her, she was going to snap. The longer she gazed at Lamar, the more disgusted she became. While Tasha, Thelma, and Shauna were practically slut-shaming her, Lamar just sat there twiddling his thumbs. Yet the moment she stands up for herself, she's in the wrong? He's so fucking pathetic, she thought to herself. She had planned to wait until after dinner to break things off with him because even though he didn't deserve it, she took his feelings into consideration and didn't want to embarrass him in front of his family and guests. Now she was going to tell him exactly what she thought of him. Fuck his feelings. Why are you looking at me like that? Lamar asked offensively. Sarai watched Rochelle and Lamar waiting to see what would happen. Oh shit, it's about to go down, she thought as she took a bite of her meatloaf. You sat here and watched your mom, your auntie, and that stuck-up bitch disrespect me, and you didn't say a damn thing. But I'm wrong and need to chill because I'm defending myself? Rochelle asked incredulously. Shauna stood up, ready to fight Rochelle for calling her a bitch, but was pulled back into her seat by her father. Yeah, sit down, bitch. You don't want these hands, Rochelle thought. They wasn't disrespecting you, Rochelle. Stop being so dramatic. You acting like they called you a hoe or something, Lamar replied. Even though that's what she is, Tasha said as she took a sip of her wine. Lamar looked at his mother pleadingly. What? I'm just telling you the truth. I don't know why you were wasting your time with the little floozy anyway. You should have just left her alone and stuck with Shauna, she added as she looked Rochelle up and down. Rochelle felt her blood boiling. Seeing that the situation had the potential to get out of hand, Sarai decided to step in. Auntie, don't you think that was a little uncalled for? She asked. Sarai, stay out of it, her mother snapped. Sarai's right, Thelma. You and Tasha were both out of line. Now, I may not necessarily agree with what the girl is doing, but she's grown. Let her just pray for her and keep it moving, Vernon interjected. Sarai was so grateful for her father at that moment. Well, maybe if her father had raised her right, she wouldn't be doing this shit. She obviously does it for attention, Tasha said snidely. Suddenly, it was as if a record scratched inside Rochelle's head. It was one thing to bash her, but to bring up her father was another thing entirely. Something in her snapped. My father is dead, you self-righteous bitch, she barked as she lunged at Tasha, having every intention of beating her ass tonight. Tasha jumped back in shock as Lamar restrained Rochelle as Deacon Roberts and Shauna looked on helplessly. Thelma, however, was calmly removing her earrings while Vernon tried in vain to talk her out of getting involved. Let me go, Lamar, she shouted, but Lamar tightened his grip on her. Rochelle, calm your ass down, he yelled. I'm not about to let you swing on my mom. Fuck her, I'm sick of her shit, Rochelle screamed as she managed to break free from Lamar's grip on her. Suddenly, the light bulbs in the ceiling fan burst. What on earth was that? Vernon exclaimed. The damn fuse box blew again, Tasha groaned in frustration. Sarai took Rochelle by the arm and dragged her out of the dining room towards the front door to give her some time to calm down. You better straighten out your little friend, Sarai, unless you want to watch her get her ass beat, Thelma shouted after them, while the men went into the basement to fix the fuse box. Rochelle turned around to respond, but Sarai pushed her out the door. So I see we got 2 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Okay, so I gotta ask, although it might be spoilers, are any of the people at that dinner going to be targets down the road?
Maybe not. I don't want to spoil too much.
You got me rooting for them and stuff. You know, that's great. It's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing and reading for us.
Not a problem.
I really appreciate it. Now, man, you guys are all hooking me on these books. I've got a lot of reading to do. Well, thank you so much for coming and for sharing with us.
You're welcome.
We really appreciate it. For those who want to see what's coming up next, we've got SW Rain is going to be sharing her upcoming book. I've got the link there in the comments. We'll be posting links to Jade's website so you can buy this book and finish it for yourself. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.